Everyone, it's Zen with this week's Dragon Ball Super Fusion World Top 5 deck lists, the third installment of this brand new weekly series where I showcase the top 5 best and most used decks in the Fusion World client. But before we get into that, here's something new on the channel. If you want to get extra content, early access to videos, or even just support the channel, you can do so all for less than the cost of a pack of cards by clicking the join button down below. And with that, let's check out the first week of Set 3's best decks to use in the client, starting with the brand new color group Black. The leader we're seeing a lot of in this opening week is the brand new leader GT Goku. It's a 15k leader that awakens at 4 life or less, and now when it awakens, this is its effect. It's pretty interesting. It's the entire gimmick for Black where they manipulate the energy marker for some really cool effects. It's a 20k body and it has the activate main once per turn, meaning you can't do this during battle, you have to do it before your battle, where for 1 energy you can choose up to 1 of your battle cards and then they get an additional 10k power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So you can use this offensively and defensively, or just defensively, right? However, if you removed an energy marker for this skill, it instead gets 15k power, which is honestly really powerful when you think about cards like the double striker in this deck. Anyway, we're going to go over this deck, but before we do that, I just want to note out things like this. Everyone's talking about it. 4 copies of the secret rare Son Goku GT. Now, if you're like me, or many others, you don't even have one. Actually, I just pulled one today, luckily a singular copy. So because of that, don't worry, I'll be making an updated video in the future where it's going to be more budget friendly, where things like SRs will only have like a max copy of 3 or maybe even 2, and then secret rares might not even be in the deck, or if they are, I'll recommend 1 copy and try to build decks around that. But for the case of the very lucky individuals who got all 4 copies or spent thousands of dollars, I don't know how much money you needed to spend to get these pull rates, congratulations for you. And if you have 4 copies, then this might be the deck for you. But anyway, let's start breaking it down with the 1-drops. We have 2 cards that draw for us. We have Fasha, 4 copies of this, and then we have 3 copies of the childhood Broly Son Goku. Honestly, really cute. Now, I'm confused because, like, wasn't he sent to Earth much younger? Why does he have Saiyan armor here? Anyway, it's confusing. It's not consistent with the story plot, but anyway. Here's another card that I honestly skipped over myself. I didn't know how good this was, but this is way better than the Bulma card. For 1 energy, you can play this, activate main, discard a card from your hand, and for 1 energy, you can add a energy marker if you don't have one. Personally, that's a very strong ability, right? Better than the Bulma, which is like -3 energy, but you get to draw a card and then place an energy marker. I mean, I guess to each their own, right? This is discarding a card from your hand, but I think it's pretty advantageous, right? And then we have this card, Para Brothers, where if you removed an energy marker to use this card, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and it can't attack the next turn. This is insanely powerful, right? Typically synergized with this card right here, the secret rare, which I guess we should just talk about, right? When attacking once per turn, if you don't have an energy marker, place an energy marker. So in theory, if you did have an energy marker, you can play 1, freeze a card, play this, get your energy marker back, play this again, freeze another card. The synergy there is like pretty strong. And then we have our searcher. We have 4 copies of the 1-cost Pan that searches for any GT Goku or any GT Trunks. We have 2 copies of GT Trunks in this deck. And then we have another card, the Kakarot one, very weak. This is literally only to give yourself an energy marker. On play, place 1 card from your hand to the top or bottom of your deck, right? I guess you could add it to the bottom if it's just like a wasteful card. So it's kind of helpful for cycling, but then you get a energy marker with this. It does give you 5k combo, which is kind of beneficial. And then we're going for 3 copies here of the SR Pan GT, where on play, it helps you self-awaken. And then when attacking, for 1 energy, you can draw a card. Then if you removed your energy marker, choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 4 or less and return it to their hand. Now, why is this good? Well, Jiren is kind of a big threat right now with being a permanent, you can't KO it the first time. So this isn't a blue deck, right? So you don't have Sinister Sickle or anything like that, or Sickle City Gohan to blow up with Vegito. So having this and being able to bounce it back to the hand means you can then attack into the leader and not worry about them like cycling their cards. I think it's pretty strong. This is a really strong card, mainly just to get rid of stronger opposing 4 costs, right? And then our first Trunks here is a blocker that becomes a 25k power if you have an energy marker on the opponent's turn. We have 4 copies of the 3-cost Son Goku GT that self-awakens for you. Then if you don't have an energy marker, you get to get one. Another Trunks here where it becomes a 30k body for 3 energy on your turn if you have an energy marker. And then a card that honestly is insanely strong. It has an auto once per turn. When you use a card in combo while this card is in a battle, draw 1 card. Then switch this card to active mode. So not only is it a draw engine, but you get to essentially restand it for free or swing again if you want. It only activates once per turn though, you can't cheese it. And then we talked about the secret rare, GT Goku. And now we have the 3 double striking Bardock, which is really interesting right here. So I understood this incorrectly and I saw someone else use it this way. So check this out. The activated battle, your turn once per turn. If you have 2 or more cards in your combo area, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and knock it out. It doesn't say that this card needs 2 combos. So you can actually swing with your leader or any other card, give them 2 combos, right? It could be something like right here. You're swinging when attacking here and you give it 2 combos. So now it's a 40k swing where you can bounce a card and then activate this. Just activate this ability. So now you can pop anything cost 4 or higher on their side and then bounce anything 4 or less back to their hand. It's actually pretty strong. Or you can synergize this with the leader's ability where it can become a, what is that math real quick, 50k double striking swing, which is pretty insane, right? We have our 4 super combos right here. And then we have the 10 times Kamehameha 2 copies, because this again is pretty good for removal, especially for black. It only goes up to a maximum of a 3 cost or less if you remove an energy marker. Because of that, I don't think it's that strong, but then you remember you have other cards that remove or bounce cards back to the hand. Honestly, black has a little bit of everything and I like that. Plus they have their own energy manipulation. I'm sure we're going to start seeing way more black leaders in the digital client, especially being used more if people can get more secret rares. But as of right now, their whole system is kind of trash because like it's only if you're lucky, right? You can't even buy. But anyway, that's for another video. I'm not going to sit here and complain about it in this one. Let's move on to the next one. Surprisingly, Deadku here. You can call him Angelku, you can call him Haloku, whatever you want. You're wrong. It's Deadku. Like a lot of people are playing this leader. Let me show you what he does real quick. 15k body, activates, switches over, flips over at 4 life or less. And let me do this real quick. There we go. So this is really cool because draw 2 cards, then place 1 card from your hand to the top of your deck. So it draws 2 and cycles for you, right? And now this is the interesting part. This is actually a very strong ability as long as you have 7 cards or fewer in your hand. If you don't, listen, the whole thing about playing blue is you have to be either an accountant or there's 2 types of blue players. You're like really good at math and counting, or you're extremely forgetful. You're like, oh darn, I forgot how many cards I had in my hand. But anyway, switch one of your cards in the battle area to rest mode. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, then this card gets a plus 10k for the battle. So it becomes a 30k body defensively. Really good. But check this out. In your battle area to rest mode. Now, why is this good? Well, because this is a field card that is in your battle area. So you could just rest this for free and then get that ability off, right? But let's talk about this card. This is insanely good because for 2 energy, you can pop this, send it to the drop, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then play up to 1 card with a cost of 4 or less, say in City, in the special traits. Now, using the leader's ability, you can kind of place what card you want on the top of your deck, and then play cards like this 4 cost 30k vanilla Gray Saiyaman, or the Son Gohan, the Sickle City Gohan here, where if you have 7 or fewer cards, again, you get to just blow up the board, not blow up, but like send 2 3 costs or less to the bottom of the opponent's deck. Really strong here. Now, if you're going against Jiren again with the 4 costs and you have a single Vegito with a hand size of 7 or fewer, well, guess what? He still sends them back. And just in case you don't have that synergy, we have 2 Sinister Sickles here, mainly to deal with Jiren, right? And other forecasts that are pretty annoying when they're on the board. But let's talk about everything else real quick. We have our peel-off engine. You need to have a peel-off engine. We have our searcher here for all the Satan City cards. And then we have this card right here, which is pretty nice because this counts itself. It counts all the Satan City cards plus the field, the field card, the Orange City High School card. Reveal the top card of your deck. If the revealed card is Satan City, then the next time you use an extra from your hand, reduce its cost, which is really good. Now, what extra could you possibly use? This one right here. Or you can even use this one right here, where if you have 3 or more cards with Satan City and their special traits in the battle area, including your field card, draw 3 cards, then place 1 in your hand. It doesn't have to be out of the 3 to the top of your deck. The synergy here is actually pretty nuts, right? Really good. And then I want to mention this. This is Satan City and Earthling, which means Peel-Off can pull this back for you. Now, again, another card that's really good. When attacking, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's Satan City, then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and reduce their cost by 2. Are you starting to see the synergy here? We're able to bottom deck with so much potential here repeatedly, right? We have 4 copies of the Sickle Gohan that we could use to bottom deck a lot of cards. And we can play Goku Black, which brings him back, and then do that over and over again as long as we have Hercule. Another really good card, so that way we don't get stuck and not like self-awaken to use our ability of like cycling and putting cards on top of our deck, is this new 2-cost crit Vegeta. Honestly, I love this thing. It's actually really good, considering that I don't think Blue has any 2-cost crits. I could be wrong. For 20k body, that's also a self-awakener. Like, that's really good. We have 2 copies of this Videl, which if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, you get to bring back an Earthling from your drop to your hand. This is really strong because like pretty much everything here can come back, right? Except for this and just a couple other cards up here. Like these 2 can come back. It's pretty strong. We have our Vegito here, which can restand itself and can synergize with the leader if you don't have the field card out there, or can just attack twice. And then we have our super combos, and that's pretty much it. I'm excited to play it. It's really good on the ladder. The only issue is going into green sometimes, because as you can imagine, we're not running Zeno, because for our 6 energy, we're going to want to play our Goku Black most of the time. And I don't know what cards you would really want to remove for Zeno. Here, I guess you could remove the Self-Awakening Vegeta, but then you have literally no Self-Awakeners in your deck. But as of right now, most people are kind of playing it this way. Some people are playing it with Zenos, some aren't, some are playing it with other cards. But I think this is a nice, healthy Satan City deck list, that's for sure. Moving on to the 3rd deck, and it's the Emperor Lord Frieza. This thing is still so good, and as you can imagine, it's still the reigning top leader for yellow leaders in the game, right? It awakens at 4 energy, and it could restand 2 of your battle cards at the end of your turn. Now, there's a lot of older cards here. We don't really need to go over every single card. This is running the Ginyu package. Other notable cards are 2 Zarbon to help you with the Frieza army. We have our 4 SR Vegetas to protect the board. 4 Bulmas as well. We have 2 Coolers. We have 2 Son Gokus, and now some newer cards. We have our Vegeta here, which is insanely powerful. Is this like the first battle card that acts as removal? I think. Well, actually, what's it called? Cooler does that, right? But only for cost 2 or less. This is technically a little bit stronger, right? This is a stronger version of Cooler. Not through battle power, but through effects, because it could attack twice too. Anyway, you swing for 25k, activate main. It doesn't even matter if you're swinging at the 3 cost or whatnot. You can just blow up rested 3-cost battle card. So make sure they're rested, right? Then switch this card to active mode, and you get to swing again because your leader can just restand it at the end of the turn. Then we have our 2 double strikers, which freezes. 1 copy of the secret rare Golden Frieza, because again, having this into green is just so powerful. They can't play any of their big bosses. 4 super combos, and now 2 of the extra cards that are so good. And you can kind of play around with this deck and remove other cards to add more of these. Like, I think personally, having 4 copies of Final Explosion isn't bad. I think you can actually be pretty advantageous. Because let me paint you a picture, right? The opponent has like 2 Jirens on their board. You have 6 energy. You have 2 copies of this. Play it. The first time, Jirens don't get popped. The second time they do, they're gone. Yes, it did use a lot of resources for it, but now, like, there's a lot of benefit with this. Plus it freezes. I should probably show you here. Choose all of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 3 or less, and then rest them. Then choose 2 of your opponent's rest mode battle cards with a cost of 4 or less, and then KO them. This is the only means of removal, board removal, like a kind of a greater board control, board removal that yellow has. And it's good, right? Could it be better? Absolutely. But I think if it was any better, yellow would be an insane threat currently in the meta, which it kind of already is, especially going into green. And then this new card has no reason to be this strong for a common card. Like, honestly, everyone should buy this if you play like locally or in person. I already did, right? Activate Made, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, switch it to rest mode, and then it can't switch to active mode during your opponent's next turn. So you just freeze them. Oh, and get this, if they're a cost 4 or more, draw a card. Like, again, another card that you might want to run more than 1 copy, but as of right now, this is a pretty strong staple, and the key word here, consistent Frieza deck list for yellow. Now moving on to the next leader, and come on, you knew it was going to be Jiren. This thing is kind of crazy right now in the digital client. But let me explain to you what the leader does if you don't know. It's a 15k body that awakens at 3 life or less, right? And it draws on this side, which is very important. And then when it flips, it doesn't draw anymore. So if you have 3 life or less and you want to initiate a battle with the 25k power, you want to attack not flipped first, like Broly. So that way you get the draw. And then in battle, then you flip and become a 25k body. Does that make sense? Anyway, permanent ability, if you have a battle card with 30k power or more, you can only take up to 1 damage in each battle. This is so strong right here. This is actually insanely strong. Anyway, and then it has the auto, when you do take damage, you draw that way, okay? I'm going to explain why this is so strong later, but let's talk about the entire deck list, starting with the 1 cost cards. This is very control based. Like, you're going to want to play this leader to control your opponent's board and just hit them when you can, right? Check this out. We have how many copies? I think 4 copies of the Suisse, because turn 1, if you could play one of these, why not, right? Now you have a card every turn that can reduce a battle card on your opponent's side by 5k. That's pretty strong. We have our drawing Piccolo here. We have our searcher that can search for Pride Troopers, mainly your Jirens. We'll talk about that in a bit. We have some Self-Awakeners here. We have 3 copies of Hit, 3 copies of Khalifa, the crit, and then we have 2 copies of this guy, which again, pretty good, especially if let's say there's a 30k body on their side. You use your Whis' ability. Now it's a 25k. Then you play this. They're frozen. They can't attack next turn. The strategy here is all about controlling. Or if you don't have Whis and you use this, like again, -5, the policeman dude. Anyway, we have a couple tournament powers that synergize with our Kefla. We have 4 copies of the Sun Gohan. And now let's talk about Jiren right here. This thing is so dumb, dude. This card can't be KO'd once per turn. Just can't do anything to me, right? So you have to be careful, especially if your opponents have extra cards that can KO things and they're swinging with a card. You don't want to take that damage. You might want to combo early on thinking, oh, I can take the first damage and then I can defend afterwards. They more than likely have a card in their hand that they can just use to wipe you out, right? So you have to play strategically here. But check this out. Activate battle opponent's turn once per turn. You take 1 damage if this card is in rest mode, and then add the top card of your deck to your life. So you just cycle that. Now, why is this good? Let's pretend your opponent just swung into your leader with like, and they comboed so much. They comboed like 40, or they're swinging with a 40k, or they're swinging with Broly, right? And you're like, I don't want to combo for that. This is what you do. You use your ability here. You take 1 damage and then recycle that. So your life stays at 3, right? But then check this out. If you have a 30k body or more, you can only take up to 1 damage, and you just took that 1 damage with this effect, meaning they hit you with their Broly or whatever, it does nothing. It just wasted an attack. If you have 2 of them, you see what I'm saying here? Like, it's a little too strong. It's a little too strong. And it's for each battle. So the more Jirens you get, the more you want to use that ability when you don't want to combo and protect your leader. You can just use that. If they're swinging with something with way more than 25k, just use the Jiren ability. It's insane. And now the next card is 2 copies of Topo. Pretty self-explanatory. It can pop a 25k power or less when attacking. It doesn't reduce, it just knocks them out. So you have to make sure that they are at 25k or less when attacking. And then you also have to discard a card. When KO'd, you draw 2 cards, which is pretty strong. We have 2 double strikers, 2 Beerus, 4 Roomshis, Orber super combos, and now we have 3 copies of It's Over, which synergizes with Jiren. If you have a Jiren on your board for 2 energy, you get to blow up every single 25k power or less on the opponent's side. Or you can play this card. It costs 2 energy, Sphere of Destruction. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 25k or less, pop them, and then if they're at 4 life or more, they take 1 damage. It's pretty strong. So this kind of stops other people, other opponents from like hard stalling at 4 life or maybe even higher, right? You get to kind of use this card to your advantage. And now this brings us to our final and the most played deck on the client right now, and you guys are going to be a little upset, but it's androids. I know it's ridiculous, but if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? With the release of set 2, and they got no support in set 3, it's really baffling how this is still one of the most played deck lists and leaders, just because of how consistent it is. Now, we've talked about this in every single video, so I'm not really going to go too far into it, but a couple things here. We have 2 copies of the Self-Awakener, right? We have our Krillin that searches for your Android 18s or extra cards. We have our ramp card here. And then this card, like if you get this by turn 4, it's insane how fast you can consistently ramp. And that's, I think, the issue with this deck. Because by turn 4 or 5, you can start playing your androids, your Brolys, and just start going crazy, right? It's too strong. You can start playing these later in the game to get more draw potential. It's consistent, and there's really not much else to say. Androids, they're boring, but they're boringly consistent. So if you want to rank the ladder and just win more consistently, then yeah, you might want to be boring and pick up androids. Or if you want to be fun and spicy, I guess you could pick up any of these other deck lists, but that's going to be it for today's top 5 decks of the week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And I think it's actually going to be an easier day to just upload them like today on Sunday. So I'll see you next Sunday with the following top 5 decks of the week. I wonder if we're going to start seeing a little bit more variety and maybe even not see androids as much. That could be just wishful thinking. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.